What a treat we have tonight, guys. Civic Tech, Toronto is so happy to welcome the amazing and important insights from Mikaal Naik from the Civics Project, who will talk about indexing all of Canadian politics. As a quick introduction, Mikaal is a software engineer based in Toronto. He founded the TorontoBeach.app, which is obvious is pretty cool. So, so the Toronto Beach app, or TorontoBeach.app. Interestingly, it was Canada's first use of machine learning to predict public water quality. And Mikaal currently works as a design engineer at voiceflow.com. And oops, we will not. I went one step ahead. Mikaal, please take it away. Thanks.
Can you stop sharing? Sorry. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Alex, can you see that online?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming. Civic Tech, thank you for having me tonight. So like Rock said, I'm Mikaal. I'm working on the Civics Project. We are working towards building the largest political database in Canada to help people and citizens understand their government. And what a time to understand your government. So if you've been not following the news, in the next few weeks, we'll have a new Liberal Party leader, a new Prime Minister, and almost certainly, by the sounds of it, a federal election. And just a few short hours ago, a provincial election was called in Ontario. So what a time to be informed. So tonight we're going to talk about a few different ideas. We're going to talk about the scale of politics, the state of transparency, then our project, its approach, and our progress towards our goals. And we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So kind of the core tenet of the project is separating rhetoric from fact. So press conferences, media pits, these are really fun, or they can be fun. Little sound bites, tweet battles, all that kind of stuff. But it's actually not what politics is actually about. Where the rubber hits the road is in the House of Commons, in legislature, at City Hall. So that's what we're focusing on. So sadly, there can often be boring, but they do discuss interesting things that are relevant to all of our daily lives. So this is kind of just like a random poll of stuff that I thought was crazy from both the provincial and federal levels of government. So these take form in the shape of bills. So let's take a peek. Just out of curiosity, has anyone in the room read a bill in the last 12 months? Wow. Okay, let's go. This is great. This is fantastic.
Mikaal, I told you this is the dirty.
This is the audience.
Level of nerdiness.
So okay, so let's look at two bills. These are from the Ontario government. We have one, a Resource Management Act, and the Group of 7 Day Act. So the Resource Management Act, that encompasses the Forest Fire Prevention Act. That's quite timely if you've been following what's happening in California. Geologic carbon storage, so pulling carbon dioxide out of the ground and putting it underground. So very interesting stuff. Sadly, it is 37,000 words long. Just to give that some perspective, that's 1.2 Hamlets of length, So not an enjoyable read, and it's written in a very dense vernacular. So the Group of 7 on the Act, on the other hand, less than 100 words, simple, kind of cool, So we've seen two bills. Now let's multiply that by a few hundred bills at each session. So Ontario government tabled 302 bills this last session. So maybe don't take the longest one or the shortest one. Let's come kind of in the middle. But we've already gotten to a point where it is quite difficult for the average human being to understand those ideas. Then let's multiply that number by 3. So 412 bills at the federal government and over 10,000 line items at the city council. Amazing. A scale that is obviously beyond a single human comprehension. If you're a policy analyst, you would even be hard pressed to fit all of this in your brain and understand it in completion. So that's kind of the what they're discussing. The bills, like what are they tabling? What are they trying to change? The other kind of important premise is how is your rep voting? So we all have federal, provincial, and city reps. It should be easy to know how our votes are being expressed in those governments. So maybe surprisingly, or maybe not, there is currently no way to see what your Ontario MPP has voted on. If you find a way, I will buy you a beer. But currently, this is what you can see. This is how you can see what they're voting on. So if you dive into a bill, look into the Hansard for that day. For those, maybe the audience would know, but the Hansard is basically the screenplay of Parliament that day. So the division bell rings from 11:43 to 11:48, and then a kind of high school-esque attendance sheet for Doug, Brees, Rick. This, to me, is not an acceptable data standard in 2025. Like, you should be able to search these things, not leaf through raw text. So pretty wild. So luckily, the City of Toronto has provided, and I think there's some open data people here. Shout out to you guys. The City of Toronto does provide a way to download those votes. So here we're looking at a lovely kind of sample, 23 of 28,000 votes that the City of Toronto councillors have voted on since 2022. So another huge scale of data that, yeah, the average person would find difficult. I find difficult to like reason through. So, and maybe surprisingly, again, the federal government does quite a lovely job. I live in High Park, so Reef Ferrani is my rep, and they've provided a lovely way for us to look at these votes. So kind of a nice tabulation, sort of nice looking UI, but at least it exists. So I just want to know what three people are doing. You know, why is it so complex? Like, should be fairly simple. Just three people who kind of, sort of work for me. So this kind of gets to the point of what I've been working on. So the Civics Project's belief is that every person should be able to understand their government. It should be simple. You shouldn't need a law degree. You shouldn't need to be a policy analyst or a political scientist. Normal people should be able to understand. So kind of the backbone of what we're building is the index. So the goal, as I said earlier, is to build the largest political database in Canada. Today, we're not there. We've finished digesting this last session of Parliament. So the 44th session of Parliament, that's 412 bills, a few thousand votes, and we've imported $750 billion of federal spending. So we've got a long way to go, but we're starting out. So we're also developing a standardized format for political data that's evolving over time as we expand to more geographies. So this is what the project looks like today. So all the bills, short title, description, and then what party is tabling these things. It's kind of, sorry, so little res, but the state and how long they've been floating around, like how fast is government moving for us. Okay, so we still have this problem. We've assembled and sorted all these things, but we're still faced with thousands of words to read. This is just one bill. That would take a while to read. I'm sure everyone here has a busy life and they don't want to read this whole thing. So with the emergence of these new ultra low cost LLMs, they've kind of unlocked a new possibility. We're able to summarize politics at a scale that was previously impossible. So, and amazingly, so for $10, we were able to summarize all of the 44th session of Parliament. $35, we've summarized that $750 billion of federal spending. So we're kind of trying to make sense of all this data at a scale without a huge financial overhead as we scale to more geographies. So what does that look like? So we can see the raw bill on the left, and then something that we would have summarized on the right. So it's kind of low res, but you can see, so we have a standardized format. So a summary is kind of the wicked fast, like super brief overview of like, what does this thing do? What does it mean for you is the next section. So it's like, how does this impact you, your neighbor, your country, whatever have you? Like, how does this actually become real? An expense section. So We're all taxpayers. So what are these people spending our money on? Let's check that out. Let's try to surface that. Some bills are much more clear with that than others. And then most importantly, an opponent's and proponent's view. Why hasn't this been done? Why should it be done? Just kind of trying to keep an even keel and present an unbiased perspective of politics, which is quite lacking these days. Okay, great. So that's kind of the treatment that we've done to the bill side. So what about votes? So we don't know who will be the Liberal Party leader, but almost certainly Poilievre and Singh will be leading their parties into the next federal election. So I'm not sure if you guys follow these guys on Twitter or anything. They throw some pretty crazy language around each other. It's fairly wild. So let's see how they vote compared to each other. So this is our vote treatment. So you can compare on the site, you can look at a single MP's voting record or compare them to another. Maybe it's the same party, maybe it's the opposing party in the opposite end of the political spectrum. But yeah, so I was kind of shocked to see this. By the terms of the rhetoric, you'd never think these guys would agree on anything. But surprisingly, they do vote similarly quite often. There are ideas like political federal spending that they often disagree on, but it's definitely not the partisan environment the media would often have us present. So a conservative party leader voting yes on liberal bills, an NDP party leader voting yes on conservative bills. I was kind of shocked by this personally, and the list goes on. You can compare two MPs that you think have nothing in common, but they vote the same way on very similar ideas. See, they're friends. So nice. So with tools like this and other tools that have been presented at Civic Tech, I think transparency can bring participation and collaboration in government, bringing the temperature down in the room in this kind of partisan environment we now find ourselves in. So what's next for the project? Where are we going? What's happening? So we're hoping to do a geographic expansion. So as I mentioned, Ontario elections coming up. Can't even figure out what our MPPs are voting on. That's up next. So supporting the summarization and the indexing of all those votes, that's up next, top of the docket. And then I think I spoke to Ilya about you guys work on Toronto Council. Would love to talk to you guys about that. And then Nova Scotia and Newfoundland and Labrador have elections coming up this year. So we'd love to support those geographies as we continue our expansion outwards. And then we'd also like to add a few features about meeting you where you are. So much about political information is about kind of hunting, active searching. We'd like to make that easier. So if you sign up, which I encourage you to, all we ask for is your email and a postal code, and we use that to localize you to a city councillor, MPP, and MP. So you probably don't care what my MP is voting on, but what yours is. So I think that's actually quite a useful thing. And then also expanding to social media, and then kind of finally expanding our service to an API. So other engineers, devs, policy analysts are able to leverage this data. And yes, please sign up. It's free. It's free forever. And it's a no profit. So it's the community and signups that kind of keep us encouraged to keep working on it. And that's it. We did it. Thank you so much. That was like a speed run.